Hey guys, how's it going this morning? Frank with Tidely here, coming to you with another episode of Modern Church Leader. Super excited. Last week got to spend some time with Dean, and this week back interviewing church leaders, and really excited about today's guest. He happens to be a doctor. He's in California, part of a great church in Berkeley, and we're just going to talk about church engagement. So definitely stick around. I'd love to hear from you, where are you at? Where's your church at? How's church during COVID been? What are you guys learning? Just use the comments, participate. We love to take some questions from there, and also just encourage our guests. So without further ado, let me pop in. Hey, Garfield, how's it going?
I'm good. How's it going, Frank?
It's awesome. And I guess today you went with the crazy colorful shirt, so we changed up the theme of the show, and we've got new colors in the backgrounds, and we're just having a good time.
Yes, we are. My tribute to my cartoons. I love cartoon sounds.
Yeah. We were chatting before. I mean, my kids are super into cartoons, Transformers and Legos to be specific. What's your favorite cartoon, like childhood or now? I'm not sure. But what's your favorite all-time cartoon?
Well, right now it has to be Phineas and Ferb.
Okay.
I think I've watched every episode at least, I don't know, twice. Easy.
Really?
Oh yeah.
That's amazing. Now, are your kids or wife watch with you, or is this like, okay, that's bad time.
No, my wife would rather watch actually remodeling cars or cooking channels, stuff like that. So. We have a very creative house, so everyone has their own little thing that they enjoy.
Right. Wow. My wife's all about the remodeling, or the house stuff and cooking stuff, but not the remodeling cars. She doesn't want anything to do with that.
She'll love it all.
Yeah, totally. Well, Garfield, man, super appreciate you coming on the show. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, how you got into ministry, what you do at your church. Talk to us about your church in Berkeley, and just give us kind of the background.
Yeah, sure. I was actually born and raised in Jamaica. And I know usually people say, everyone's from Kingston. Well, I am from Kingston, went to high school in Kingston. So I grew up there and pretty much born into all the men, ironically, are pastors in my family.
Really?
So, yes. So, but my dad was also a musician. So for me, I chose the music path. There's no way I was going to be a pastor. I tried very hard not to be a pastor. I did all the music stuff. Then when I came here to the U.S., I actually went to music school, went to Berklee College of Music in Boston.
Okay.
That was going to be my life. Then you make a deal with God. Say, God, if you do this, then I'll do that. And so I did, and ended up going to seminary. And then it's just
what was the deal? God, if you make me a great drummer, I'll become a pastor. I don't know.
So it was just one of those things where I was comfortable making enough money as an underwriter, and I wanted to do some exams. And I said, okay, if I pass these exams, then I'll just go to seminary. Just one of those things. And passed all the exams, and so I decided to honor my my part of the deal, and went to seminary, and that was it. But I was always involved in church. So I was always a worship pastor. But for me, I just wanted to do my own thing. I never liked the idea of being paid by a church.
Right.
So it was just real difficult for me. So I just wanted to do my own thing. But after I went to seminary, I was traveling around doing, worship conferences, things like that. And then slowly and surely found myself, getting more and more into ministry, from being just a music director, going in to different places. Then I was still traveling, doing stage plays, like scoring music and all that stuff.
Okay.
And then
pause real quick.
Mm-hmm.
What was your music major in? What instruments did you get into? What part of the music, world was your thing?
Well, so primarily piano. I went to do studied professional music at Berklee College in Boston. And when I moved to Florida, they wanted someone to just teach some piano class. And the worship pastor there at the time, she was like, hey, we need someone to oversee the orchestra. And I was like, sure. And even though I was playing the piano, I was writing music for all kinds of instruments, from the violin, viola, like from scratch.
Okay. Wow.
So even though I didn't play all those other instruments, because I could read them, it was easy to write for all of them. So trombone, euphonium, I mean instruments sometimes that I've never even heard of, just pop in. So it was just a lot of fun just doing that. But it wasn't until when I went to get my doctorate that my pastor, he was like, okay, um, it's time to stop doing this. But I was real comfortable. I was teaching seminary
Right.
classes, all that stuff. So I was like, I'm good. Writing music, teaching seminary classes, doing church planting. I'm good. There's no need to. He's like, no, you gotta branch out. So and that's when I actually had to leave my home church, so to speak, and went to a little town called Anacortes, Washington. It's a town of maybe 17,000 people at the time,
Okay.
and which was much different from Florida because I'm coming from a 5,000 member church, um, 4 campuses, with a diverse group, going to Anacortes, Washington, where the average age inside our church was probably about 50, easy.
And you
Um,
were
the worship
20 something at the time?
No, this was recent. I was still. This was only a few years ago with that. So 3 years actually, when
Okay.
I went there, but it was just so unique because all this time in Florida we had like 1,200 people in our young adults ministry, and now I'm going to a church where it's rare to find younger people,
Right.
and it's just was quite interesting going there to leading worship and singing, as well as being the associate pastor, preaching a lot more. So it was definitely a little bit, different from what I'm accustomed to because all I did, mostly I should say, was in the worship vein and teaching, but now I'm actually leading more and singing and preaching. Is like, okay, it's a little different.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course the demographic was much different because we had only about 100 African Americans in the entire city,
Oh, in the whole city.
in the whole city. So it's a
Wow.
total change
Compared to
from
Florida. Yeah, yeah,
right.
totally.
So it was just one of those things. But somehow my wife and I were always found ourselves in that demographic. It's always the case, whether it's in the classroom or our friends. It's always been where we'd be considered the minority because our friends are diverse.
Right.
Even before moving, because I always say my wife is more Jamaican than I am. But
Is she not from Jamaica?
no, she's born
Okay.
and raised in Florida, but
Okay.
but she can speak our, the dialect and everything. So,
I think she's
yeah,
on watching live right now.
I'm sure she is.
I see her. Hold on, hold on.
Yeah, yeah, she is. That's
There she is.
yeah, she's watching. But yes, so all the food, everything, it was just one of those things. Grew up in a very diverse environment. But for me, I didn't mention earlier is that I've been doing church planting um, every year since 1997, all the way to 2017. So in Florida, I was playing at our Spanish campus. I didn't speak the language, but I knew the music.
Right,
So just some of those things where that helped with the transition from Florida because of the fact that just having a diverse background with all that.
right.
So yeah.
Yeah, love that. So talk to us about the church you're at now. You're the associate pastor. You've been
Yes,
there for
just
uh,
over a year and a half.
a little over a year, and it's in
Mhm.
Berkeley, California.
Yes, and
And
this is now different.
yeah,
So as you can see, so of course, me being African American and or the pastors was white, and it's an Asian American church, so it's that much different,
right,
um,
right.
and also millennials. So so you're having a
So senior or lead pastors, white.
Mhm.
There's you, the black associate pastor, and then there's a mostly Asian American congregation that
Yes,
are millennial aged, which
correct.
is probably super like there's probably not many of that kind of congregation around in a sense. So yeah, super, super diverse and interesting. Love it.
It is, and I think one of the blessings is that we're right down the street from UC Berkeley. So
Yeah.
so we have a lot of the college students there. In fact, I mean, we just now have, of course, except for a few couples that have given birth recently, we only have like 3 kids under 18, and
Wow.
they're
How
all
old is the
pastors'
church?
kids.
How
Uh,
long has the church been around?
18 years this year, actually.
Okay.
So it's been around for a while. Yeah.
And so I mean, that's cool. And yeah, love the connection to
Mhm.
Berkeley. It's great to kind of have like churches around college campuses and things like that. Um, I'm sure Berkeley's a tough city in a sense, to, share the gospel and talk about Jesus and the Bible and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
But maybe that's for another show, another time.
Sure, sure.
Um, how's it been? Let's kind of jump in, right? We're talking about how to boost engagement, and you guys have been doing some unique things. But what was it like? Give us the journey from March 15th, lockdowns kind of hit, and church online kind of starts for a lot of churches up through now. Like,
Mhm.
what did it look like at the beginning for you guys, and what's your journey been like with church online?
Well, pretty simple for us is that we weren't ready for it, because we were never online at all. So we never had live stream going. And the very first week, we're literally scrambling to say, okay, what are we going to do? We knew we had to have service, so we grabbed all kinds of webcam, my oldest son, he's actually studying film, so he had lighting. So we brought lights, and you know, our worship team, they came into the pastor's living room, and we just transformed it into our space.
Yeah,
So that was our live stream moment, just starting off with webcams and see how it will work. Um, Download some free softwares to stream. So that's literally how things started. We weren't ready for it at all. We had our prayer room at the service was Discord, and so of course, just finding different ways to engage, because we weren't quite sure what would happen. Because if you know anything about having an Asian community, it's very relational. So having a digital space is not the ideal situation.
right.
So that was very, kind of a weird feeling for us to
Right, right.
deal
Which
with.
is probably true for most churches. Just in
Right.
general,
Yes.
churches like, I want to give you a hug, and
Exactly.
it's family, and like being together is
Hmm.
actually the point. And so all of a sudden, every church is like a fish out of water, not
Right.
knowing what to do.
Yeah, one of the things for us is that we have a great college ministry, as far as so the college pastor, he so so having that, the way how you find they were the first ones to actually jump and do different things. So while the leaders were trying to figure out, okay, what do we do, they were already starting up a lot of different things, because the school gave them Zoom accounts, so they were creating all kinds of things, saying, hey, we got to keep community going. So
Right.
before we could even say here's where we're going, they already started making a good steps or different steps to get engaged with doing different things.
Love that.
So yeah. So yeah, I would say, I know there's some things that you mentioned about us starting up, but some of the ways that we did was so all hands were in deck when first started out, just getting not quite sure how it is, weren't quite sure what the restrictions are with COVID. We just kind of like pack the house out, just do what you got to do.
Right.
Um, and initially it was a panic and I would not necessarily panic, I should say, but just I guess the pressure to keep doing what we've always been doing,
Right.
the worship, all the different things that we were accustomed to. But we had to
Like
scale down.
reproduce church, in-person church
Exactly.
on the internet. Like
Right.
somehow do everything the same. Yeah.
Right. And it wasn't practical. That, I mean, you find that you get more burnt out doing that. So we had to get creative with doing that. And then, so we first started with live stream, but now we actually do Premiere, because it feels a little bit more safer in terms of if you lose electricity, stuff like that, and
I feel like a lot of churches have have gone that direction, like over the course of however many months it's been, 9 months, like did
right.
something real simple, tried to reproduce what they were doing in person, figured out that's really hard and
Hmm.
doesn't translate well, and then over time kind of learned how to create a service plan that was built for an online kind of audience and communication, and started doing pre-recorded, like at least portions of it, if not all of it, and then premiering it maybe with bookends that are live or something like that. Like a lot of people have made that kind of transition over 6 to 9 months.
Yeah, sure. I mean, we do the when we did live, it was okay to just pray, but you didn't really get impact. So what we did was we moved everything to Premiere, but then we have Zoom prayer rooms. So at the end of the service, you can get prayer with face to face in the Zoom rooms, as opposed to just go into some chat room or just say prayer, blanket prayer. So that gives that kind of a live feel where you all watch the service together, and then if you need prayer, you can just go in the prayer room. So that's been something that we've been doing consistent. I mean, it works for us consistently. So
yeah, I love that. So you went to Premiere, and so that means you're pre-recording everything now.
Correct.
Like what does that look like? What's your weekly production schedule to pre-record everything and put together service? And are you in the building recording everything, or what's it look like to produce your service?
Yeah. So the worship team, they've been going to they record in the building on Sundays. So pretty much using the same Sunday routine to record for the upcoming Sunday.
A week ahead. Got it.
A week ahead. So because we have our sermon calendar, so they can get a chance to see what's coming up. Now, if I'm going to be preaching, I try to do mine on Thursdays because I preach at different locations. So I don't preach inside. So in fact, I'm always somewhere from the battleship to open space locations by the water. So just different things I've always done. But most times, if the senior pastor is preaching, he'll do his on like a Wednesday or so. For a college pastor, he'll do his on a Thursday. So it just varies with that. So we put everything together usually by the weekend, but every piece is going out. Yeah.
Now I love what you said. You like to go elsewhere. Like you're not in the building, you're recording in different locations. What sparked that idea, and how has it been received? Like, do people dig it? Do they like that you're kind of coming to them from a different place, and it's like, where's Waldo every time you preach?
It is. It's so the very first week, I would say it was pretty much close to a train wreck. Because the first time I did it, I went to the top of a mountain, and we had birds squawking everywhere. And and by this, I didn't necessarily know how to get the audio the right way, and I had to record that one 2 days in a row, because the first day I went, I had people trying to get the best view of the city. One guy literally just walked right into my shot, saw me recording, and he just started recording his own thing. Then he fell. It was just kind of like then the birds squawking in the background.
You're gonna have a post-COVID bloopers reel. Like you're gonna have material for days.
Absolutely. It was literally like that. But they loved it because it was different. And then I finally found ways to get the audio better. But I could never get rid of the birds. It doesn't matter where I went, there was always a bird. And it was always when it was time for prayer. The birds would just come out of nowhere and just literally perch in the background. But I think I did something that was indoor, and someone was kind of like, "What? Pastor Garfield inside? Where am I?" Because it doesn't matter what it was. I've done the hikes to do the sermon. It's just different things, because people are tired of just staring at a screen.
Right.
And I think just by giving them something else to look at, it gives a different mindset. I think one of the most memorable ones too was I was recording, and there's a dog that was in the background just running back and forth. You can see the puppy all the way back. So I tried to re-record the sermon, and right in the middle of me recording, the dog left from where it was, ran all the way up, and just jumped into my wife's lap. She was sitting on the ground. He just jumped at her. And I saw him coming, and I'm saying to myself, I don't care what happened, I'm going to keep preaching. It's just
preach on.
Yeah. But once he jumped on her, I was like, okay, it's over. It's just not going to happen anymore. But it was just those things, because it just gives I mean, the attention span is not there. And I feel like if someone gets tired of staring at a wall, they can find something else to look at
Right.
while they're listening. So, and especially now with today's generation, where they can multitask doing several things at the same time. So I think just changing it up helps.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually really love that. I mean, there's a reason why movies change scenes and
Right.
have things moving. There's a reason why like news outlets have like they're switching the screen up like they're bringing in guests. They're going
Hmm.
from 2 people to 3 people to 1 person, and there's things moving in the background, and there's a
Right.
bottom thing. Like there's a reason all that stuff is going on. And it's media, and so obviously they've learned these things and they've perfected them and they know how to do it. Churches, none of us know how to do this stuff, right? But there's definitely a purpose behind a lot of those things. And in a way, you kind of stumbled into doing that just by going outside and switching up locations and having some fun. And it makes it like visually interesting to your church. And it kind of grabs their attention just a little bit more because there's something different about it.
Sure.
Yeah.
It definitely works. I think more churches should actually do that. It's something that they call, where you say it to disrupt your visuals, just changing it up. Even our MCs is the same thing because a lot of churches will have like a campus pastor, an online pastor, where it's the same face. Well, we have 9 different faces that kind of host the service for us. So you just never know who's going to be there every week.
Sorry. Does that
Mhm.
rotate every week? You
Every
rotate
week.
the person or the couple people that are emceeing?
Every week. Every
Okay.
week a different person. So you just never know who's going to be emceeing, and also the worship team is different. So it's never the same. So when you talk about diversity, everything's diverse for us because we have multiple worship teams, we have multiple MCs. The preaching is diverse because, I mean, I'll be in a random location, and so it's just all different with how everything's done.
Yeah. How do are the MCs emceeing live?
No,
Okay, so they're pre-recorded as well.
I think.
Did you didn't or like did you start with MCs at the beginning, or did you incorporate MCs somewhere along the way? Because
Incorporate.
okay, and how's that gone for you guys? I think there's this idea of like having a host for your service
Mhm.
in the online environment that kind of changes like the dynamic and the feel and the engagement. So just for the audience, like what's an MC and kind of how are you guys seeing them be effective?
Sure. I think when you look at the service, you don't have a lot of room for creativity because the worship is the worship. You can't change much of that. Unless we have a sermon illustration, you can't change that. So when you have an MC, all they're doing, there are 4 levels for it. So the first one, we have someone that pretty much engage the audience to say, hey, let's worship together, and they get everyone excited about that. And opposed to having the worship leader do that, we have the MC to do that. Then after that's over, we have MCs there to pray a traditional prayer from that, do some announcements, introduce the speaker, also to encourage everyone to get involved into our small groups for the week and even get into the prayer room. So those things help. But also, the biggest thing for us is that since people want community, well, that's their way of getting community because you're seeing 9 different faces. So, as opposed to seeing the same faces, you get to see different members within our church community.
Right.
So that was our way of integrating those different faces, is to have them, and then also they're all different personalities, and these guys weren't necessarily on our MC list. We just found the most random person and
Yeah.
say, "Hey, can you do this?
Jump
Let's
in.
train." Exactly, and that's what we did. And I'll tell them if I'm preaching outside, I'll say, "Hey, I'm going to be by the waters. If you can get by the water, go by the water as well." And we just do that. So
Yeah. Yeah. Love that. So you guys are streaming to Facebook Live, I think I recall.
yeah.
Is that your main destination? What kind of things are you guys trying to do on Facebook like during the service? Do you have moderators that are chatting? Are you kind of engaging, or do you ask questions to get people in the comments? Like
Mhm.
what's going on in that sense in terms of using the Facebook platform during
Yeah.
your live stream?
So we do 2 things. We do Facebook, but we also do the online church that they have. So and now the online church, we have that set up where a lot of people just want to pretty much go to church, not be bothered, and just watch a service, not much dialogue. So you find less engagement there. On Facebook, you have all the engagement. So we have different moderators there. But I also don't like to use the church name. I like when people can see the personalities. So in opposed to having someone being admin to moderate the chat, we actually have different members from the welcome team
Right.
with their actual names engaged. So, and even our sermons, we actually have questions that we ask within the sermons just to gauge feedback from that as well. So those are all of the different things we do. And you'll see days where they want to talk. You'll have 100 different comments, and there are days when it's much quiet.
Right.
It's really quiet around the sermon time because our church, they love taking notes. So once the sermon starts, it's going to be less dialogue within that. So that's the main reason of doing that, which is everyone goes to the home groups. We call them, most churches say life groups, or the home groups. They all have that. When they come together, it's more for that larger picture of just to have dialogue. So you'll find them say, "Hey, Johnny, what's going on?" They type and stuff like that, or they laugh about something. And that's their engagement since they can't be physical together.
Right. Yeah. How's it work, or how have you seen it play out when like you're preaching and maybe you've got a question and you're like, "Hey guys, like answer in the chat," or something like that? Do you do that pretty often? Does that spark some good conversation and kind of engagement with people?
It works. So I think one of the things is that we don't ask questions where you're like waiting for an answer. But different thing. But if you ask a question like, "Hey, what's your favorite fruit?" I mean, everyone's going to go along dialogue, and then because you know what you're trying to drive at, you go through. And so I'll ask a question, but I'll also give my answer.
Right.
And then different people will go through, and you learn different things about people. So when you ask questions that will spark an interest, then you have others who are watching will get engaged.
Right.
And so those are things that I'll do. Might ask a question to say, "Hey, if you've done this before, do this," and I'll say, "Hey, look for this person who might be struggling with this," or "What's one word that will describe your week?" And you'll write it in there, and that's okay. Now let's pray for each other. Look in the comments and find different people who have been doing it. Let's all pray. So that way, there's that engagement there. And I'll prep the prayer team in advance if I'm going to say something that requires an engagement from them to say, "Hey, I'm going to say this," or the pastor's going to say this, or whoever's preaching is going to say something.
Right.
Look for this response. That way you can engage that.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's just something to like whoever's preaching, like doing something to engage the audience. And I agree with you. You're not going to ask these crazy deep questions and wait for answers and all that kind of stuff. You're going to do it in a kind of a smart way.
Right.
Short answers, one words, favorite fruit, where are you watching from, whatever, like just stuff that kind of creates some of that. And, also getting good at maybe incorporating it into the sermon somehow. I think it's that added, like you're switching scenes and you're doing things and going places, and then you're trying to create a little bit of a dialogue during the sermon because you have that opportunity on. So like you can't do it as much in person because it's kind of weird if people are yelling out from the audience to some extent. But there's that medium of creating a little bit of a dialogue, and I think it really helps boost what's going on and people not zoning out while they're maybe sitting at home on their couch watching.
You're absolutely right. And I mean, different things that we, of course, like I mentioned to you earlier before we came on about our church app that we have, which was something that we actually started using. We didn't have the app before. And when we used it for another medium. So what we do is each week, our lead pastor posts a devotional that's only available within the app. And then we do a bi-weekly blog within the app as well. So these features are only available within the app.
Right.
So we drive different things, and that way we can have an engagement wherever. And we also do the podcast just for the services. So just making sure that wherever you are, we can cater to you.
Right. No, I love that. I mean, I guess as kind of jumping from the service. Mm-hmm. So you guys started, we didn't really jump into it, but obviously you're been a Tidely customer for quite a number of years, but you just started using the custom church app like right around COVID time.
Yeah, we started it and thinking about it, but we never got into it much because we're trying to figure out, okay, how do we onboard our church?
Right.
Even with the CHMS, the management software as well. So we had all those, and we needed to find ways to on board the church, and then COVID happened. It's like, oh, what better way?
Let's go.
So we've used the app, and also the management software. We use that for attendance. So we do attendance for our home groups, and the reason for that is we want to make sure that no one is slipping through the cracks. So we actually measure our church database with those who are actually a part of our home groups, and if we find people missing, we actually reach out to them. So the app came into play where, like, hey, sign up for the app and use it. You can give, you can do this, and you can actually watch the service within the app. So we used all the configurations within the app just to get people engaged wherever. And everyone's using one of the 3 platforms that we have, whether it's the app, online church, or Facebook. So someone's watching from wherever.
Right. Well, I love what you said about how you're using the app too. And I think that's a good thing for people to take away. Like you obviously post all your sermons, which is great in the podcast kind of feature, but you said you're doing twice a week, like devotionals or Bible studies that you're posting in the app.
Yeah. Yes. So we use so we have the every Wednesday. So tomorrow will be another day where there's a devotional that's in there, and then we also have a blog that we post on a Monday. So they can go in and they can read a blog, or they can go through, and we use the on-demand feature, which is I love that, because the on-demand feature not only feature the devotional, but all the sermons that's there. They can literally just watch any sermon because they're all just there right within the app. So, as opposed to saying go to YouTube or go find this or that, we're just like, just get the app, it's right there.
Yeah, like point everybody back to the app for all the things, and that way you kind of. And then when you post like a devotional or a Bible study, and do you guys use the push notification feature to kind of let everyone know, like, hey guys, there's a new piece of content in the app, go check it out today?
So we use the push notification, but also a lot of Facebook posting as well to do that.
Yeah.
And if you go to our website, also you'd find that we have all the schedules there, because they can watch it there. So what we do at the website is that we schedule times throughout the day. So all those things are on. You can see. So we have that on the website maybe like 5-6 times on a Wednesday and on a Thursday.
Right.
But then in the app, they can see that. So you see it. So there's a schedule of everything. So whichever way you want to watch it, it's there. And I think it's just because you can never find too many ways to do it, because we always think that everyone's on Facebook. Well, not everyone's on Facebook.
Yeah.
So you have to catch them, whether it's Facebook or if it's on the app or it's on our website. And of course, you have the prayer chat, which is, so we used all the different features. I've been working with the guys at Tidely for a while just to get the right features that we want. The I said yes, or the prayer chat that's on there. People post the prayer request that's in there, and we can just respond to those. So all different ways. We use all the features.
Yeah. Are you guys, do you use the live notes capability? And okay. Yeah. I mean, that's another great way to kind of, you said your church is one that like really likes to take notes. So getting people like in the app, maybe they're watching the sermon on their TV because they're at home, but they have the app open to take notes, and they're getting in there. And you're just driving people back into the app for all kinds of content, praying, taking notes, listening to the sermon, maybe catching last week's, if they're out on a walk, like all that kind of stuff. I love that.
And we embed all the Zoom links in there. So if you're trying to figure out, okay, where do I get prayer during service? I mean, you can just go to app, click there, it's right there.
Right.
If you want to get in, connected to a home group, we have them listed there as well. So just all these different features that we have in there make it easy. So, as opposed to trying to remember, well, what's the Zoom link or what's this? Just go to the app, you click it, it just takes you right there.
It's always there. Yeah. No, that's brilliant. Man, Pastor Garfield, this has been awesome. I want to be mindful of your time and everyone else's time. But what any closing thoughts? Like, are you thinking about or starting to do any other things that are creating more engagement with the church as Church Online kind of keeps going on?
Yeah, so I think one of the things, because we can't necessarily meet in person, however, so what we've been doing is that we focus now for the rest of the fall that we do all our home groups virtually, because that's the heartbeat of our church. We always said that we are a church of home groups, not a church with home groups. So we drive that virtually. But then what we do on Saturdays is that we have in-person gatherings in the parks, wherever, like the men's ministry or the women's ministry or the young adults. So we do those in person out there, and so that kind of like bridge engagements, and opposed to waiting for the entire church to meet, we just find different small gatherings outside. So while you're getting the community of your home groups, then outside you can get like we're going on a hike this weekend. Well, the men's ministry is supposed to go on a hike. So those different things you do, or play volleyball. So those things help. So I would say that's the best thing to do. But I would also say focus primarily on your strengths. For us, it was our worship and our sermon, and then we just build around that. So just don't overcomplicate the simple, and that would be the biggest thing. Just don't overcomplicate it.
Yeah, love that. Keep it simple. Do the
Yes.
things you're really good at, and keep trying stuff. I feel like that's what I heard from you, is like you guys have grown in your ability to do church online over the 6-9 months, and gotten better and better at it.
And we're changing again our Sunday service again. So now we actually made our service shorter. So now we've gone from having a 90-minute to 80-minute service to now a 60-minute service that we're pretty much having between 60 and 75. So just shorter and shorter.
Evolving to make it work in this medium. So no, I appreciate that. Pastor Garfield, thanks for your time today. Tell us real quick, where can folks go to just check you guys out and maybe look at how you're doing some of your live streams and all that?
Sure, they can. Our website, lw.church, pretty simple. lw.church.
lw.church. That's amazing. You got a good domain. Love that. Well, guys, everyone tuning in live, super appreciate you guys. We would appreciate, like the show, subscribe, all the things, but mostly just say thanks to Pastor Garfield in the comments for his time today. And we will catch everybody next week on Tuesday, same time, and we'll have another great guest. So thanks, everybody. Thank you, Pastor Garfield.
Sure.